I can't do this anymore, Liv. I want you out of my life, Blake said suddenly, his voice firm. I stared at him wide-eyed. What the hell are you talking about? He sighed, looking away. We're done. I've got your stuff packed. It felt like a punch to the gut. This was the same man I had known for the last 6 years, and yet he seemed like a stranger. I paused, trying to process his words. So what, Blake? 6 years of marriage just like that? You're going to throw it all away? He met my gaze, his eyes cold. This isn't working, Olivia. I want you gone. Well, if he wanted a fight, I could give him one. But first, let me backtrack a bit. I'm Olivia, a 32-year-old freelance graphic designer. I would introduce myself. It wasn't always easy, but my hard work paid off, getting big clients and cushy gigs. Meanwhile, Blake was a mid-level manager at a tech company. We had our financial struggles at the start, but things leveled out thanks to my career. Our marriage wasn't perfect, but I thought we were happy. Then Blake's parents, Harold and Martha, fell on hard times. Blake, ever the dutiful son, asked if they could move in with us. We were just making things work for ourselves. Are you sure about this? I asked him when he first brought it up. Yes, Liv. They're my parents. They need us, he said, sounding so sure. I reluctantly agreed. Anything for him, or so I thought. The day they moved in, the air was thick with tension. Harold, 62, and Martha, 59, showed their gratitude at first. But gratitude is a fleeting thing. Soon, Harold's expressions of thanks were overshadowed by his demanding demeanor. Martha's critiques about everything became a daily affair. Dinner is nice, but could we have expected a bit more seasoning? Martha said with that ever-present, shaky smile. Blake started siding with them more and more. It didn't take long before he was spending most of his time glued to their sides, neglecting me. I focused on my work, trying to drown out the growing tensions at home. But the pressure from Blake kept mounting. He wanted more money, more support, more everything. Can you pick up the tab for the electricity this month and the water bill is due? He'd say, almost as if it was a given. Blake, I can't keep covering everything, I protested, but it was like talking to a wall. I felt like a stranger in my own house. The Blake I knew was slipping away, and a different person was taking his place. The tension clung to the air, thick and unyielding, suffocating any semblance of normalcy. I didn't know it yet, but this was just the beginning of a nightmare that would have me fighting for my sanity and dignity. As I stood in our living room, Blake's cold words echoing in my head, I realized this was it. This was the moment everything started to unravel. Fine, I said, my voice steady. If this is how you want it, Blake, then so be it. His eyes flickered with surprise, but he quickly masked it. Yeah, that's how I want it. With that, I turned on my heel, heading towards our bedroom to pack my things. I knew this wasn't over, not by a long shot. This was just the beginning of a battle for my life, my freedom. A battle I was determined to win. When Blake's parents moved in, the change was immediate. The house felt tighter, the air tenser. Our first dinner together set the tone for what was to come. I had prepared a simple meal, but the quiet was deafening until Harold broke it. This is it, Harold muttered under his breath, poking at his food with noticeable disdain. I forced a smile. Is everything okay, Harold? Do you need anything else? He barely looked up. It's fine, Olivia, just different from what we're used to. Blake, sitting next to his father, spoke up. Liv's just trying to make everyone happy. Give her a break. Martha looked at Blake, her expression unreadable, and then turned to me. Maybe next time you could let me help in the kitchen. I know how to make things a bit more flavorful. That was the beginning of it. The polite facade slipped quickly. Harold and Martha weren't just house guests. They were critics, constantly finding fault in everything I did. Blake, who once had my back, stopped defending me as often. I found Blake in the living room one evening, talking to his mother. She really needs to step up, Martha was saying. This isn't just her house. It's everyone's now. Blake nodded, looking exhausted. I'm trying, Mom. But you know Liv. Hearing this from the hallway, I clenched my fists. These subtle jabs felt like needles piercing my skin, constant and relentless. That night, as we lay in bed, I brought it up. Blake, your parents are becoming a problem. This isn't what I signed up for. He sighed and turned over to face me. They're just having a hard time, Liv. Cut them some slack. And can you help out more with the bills? We're all in this together. Help out more? I could barely keep the frustration from my voice. I'm already covering more than half. How much more do you expect me to do? I thought back to why I agreed to this in the first place. I loved Blake. I wanted to help his family, but it was becoming an unsustainable burden. Days turned into weeks. Harold and Martha weren't shy about being demanding. They didn't just criticize anymore, they expected complete servitude. Olivia, can you take care of this? Olivia, can you do that? Martha's requests were endless, and her criticisms were biting. One particularly frustrating day, she asked, "What exactly is it that you do for work, dear? It seems like you're always on that computer, but is it really work?" I took a deep breath. "Yes, Martha. Graphic design is my job. It pays the bills." "Well, it's not real work," she said dismissively. "Try managing a family, then you'll know what real work is." There was no winning with her. And Blake growing distant wasn't helping either. He came home later, avoided conversations, spent more time with his parents. One evening, I caught him glancing at his phone, the screen lighting up briefly. "Who's that?" I asked, trying to keep it casual. "No one important," he replied, but his tone was off. It was becoming clear that something more was happening. In those moments, a fire started burning within me. I knew I couldn't keep this up. Something had to change, and if Blake wasn't going to step up for our marriage, I would have to take matters into my own hands. Dinner after dinner, day after day, their presence became more unbearable. My patience was thin. Every criticism, every demand was pushing me closer to the edge. If Blake and his parents thought they could walk all over me, they were in for a rude awakening. This was our home, but they had turned it into a battleground, and I was gearing up to fight back, one way or another. One evening, I overheard voices coming from the living room. I stopped in the hallway, straining to hear. Harold's voice was unmistakable. "She's a Goldmine, Blake. You should make sure we're all set for a while," Harold said, sounding smug. "I know, Dad," Blake replied, his tone low. "Good, just keep her earning. We'll be comfortable for years," Harold continued. I felt rage rising. They were talking about living off my hard work. I needed evidence, something concrete. I quietly pulled out my phone and recorded their conversation from the hallway, capturing their vile plans. The next morning, Martha found me working in the kitchen. "Still on that computer, dear," she said, her voice dripping with sarcasm. "Yes, Martha. This is my job," I replied, trying to stay calm. She rolled her eyes. "It's not real work. Try managing a household, then you'd understand what hard work really is." I wasn't going to let her get to me, not today. "Well, someone's got to pay the bills around here," I said, adding a cutting edge to my voice. Blake's behavior was also getting strange. He wasn't just neglecting me, he was spending money lavishly, buying things we didn't need, new gadgets, expensive clothes, things that didn't add up given our financial situation. One night, I saw Blake getting ready to leave. "Where are you going?" I asked, my curiosity piqued. "Just a work thing." "Don't wait up," he said, avoiding my eyes. "Work thing?" I narrowed my eyes, but he brushed me off, already halfway out the door. Suspicion gnawed at me. I decided to follow him. Keeping a safe distance, I trailed his car down to a fancy restaurant. My heart dropped when I saw Blake stepping out, holding the hand of a much younger woman. I parked a bit away and watched, my stomach twisting as they walked inside and took a cozy, intimate booth. Pulling out my phone, I discreetly took photos, each flashless snapshot capturing a piece of my crumbling world. Later, they exited, and then it happened. He kissed her right there in the parking lot. I felt like screaming but held it in, capturing the damning evidence instead. It became crystal clear. Blake was cheating on me. I went home, replaying the day's events in my mind. Blake's family's leeching, Martha's incessant criticism, and now this, Blake's betrayal. I knew then that things had to change. I would not be their doormat anymore. The next morning, Martha started her usual tirade. "Olivia, can you clean up the guest room today?" "No, Martha. I'm busy," I said bluntly, not looking up from my laptop. "Well, excuse me, Mrs. Big Shot, too busy for household chores," she said, seething. I looked up, cool and composed. "I'm running a business, Martha. Maybe if Blake contributed more, we wouldn't be having this conversation." Blake entered the room, sensing the tension. "What's going on?" "Nothing," I said, packing my things for a work meeting. "Just a reminder of who's actually keeping this house running." His eyes flickered with annoyance, but he said nothing. My resolve hardened. I would gather everything I needed and form a plan. Blake, Harold, Martha. They all underestimated me. But I wouldn't be underestimated for long. This was just the beginning, and they had no idea what was coming for them. The betrayal was a bitter pill to swallow. I decided enough was enough. It was time to form an escape plan, and Blake would never see it coming. The first step was hiring a private investigator. I met with Mr. Davis, a seasoned investigator who had seen it all. Sitting across from him in his modest office, I laid out my situation. "I need proof, Mr. Davis. Proof of my husband's affair and anything else he might be hiding," I said, my voice firm. He nodded, jotting down notes. "Leave it to me. We'll start digging." With the PI on the case, I began tightening the reins on my finances. I stopped contributing to the household bills, letting Blake feel the strain. He noticed quickly. "What happened to all the money? Are you hiding it from us?" He demanded one evening, his face twisted with frustration. I looked at him with a steely gaze. "Maybe you should ask your girlfriend about financial transparency," I replied, my voice cold as ice. Blake's eyes widened, shock and fear flickering across his face. He tried to recover, but he knew I had caught him. "What are you talking about?" "I've seen you, Blake. At the restaurant with her," I said, each word hitting him like a hammer. "Don't pretend anymore." The color drained from his face. "Liv, it's not what you think." "Oh, it's exactly what I think," I said, my resolve hardening. From that moment, the atmosphere in the house became even more tense. Blake tried to downplay it, but the damage was done. Meanwhile, I focused on gathering my own evidence and taking back control of my life. A few days later, Mr. Davis contacted me with a file of findings. He had photos, phone records, everything I needed. I was ready to confront Blake and his family. One evening, as Blake and his parents sat in the living room, I walked in, holding the envelope of evidence. "We need to talk," I announced. Harold glanced up, annoyed. "What now, Olivia?" Ignoring his tone, I focused on Blake. "This ends now. I have proof of your affair and your parents' plan to live off my earnings. You've all been caught." Martha tried to interject. "What nonsense are you talking about?" I threw the envelope on the coffee table. The pictures and documents spilled out in front of them. "See for yourselves," I said. Blake hesitated before picking up the photos. His face went pale as he looked through them. Harold and Martha leaned over, their expressions turning from curiosity to shock. This is ridiculous," stammered Harold, trying to regain control. "You have no right." "I have every right," I snapped. "You've abused my trust, taken advantage of my hard work, and tried to deceive me. No more." Blake looked desperate. "Liv, let's talk about this. We can fix it." "There's nothing to fix," I said, turning away from him. "I'm filing for separation. I'm done with all of you." Leaving them stunned and speechless, I went to pack my bags. The feeling of liberation was empowering as I packed up my essential belongings. Blake and his parents watched silently, the weight of their actions finally sinking in. As I walked out of the house, I felt a surge of relief. This was the beginning of my new life, a life where I would no longer be manipulated or betrayed. And no matter what came next, I was ready to face it on my own terms. Filing for separation was easier than expected. Blake didn't put up much of a fight. He knew the evidence I had against him was irrefutable. The papers were served, and I prepared to leave our shared home for good. On the day I planned to move out, I walked into a scene straight out of a bad drama. Blake, Harold, and Martha sat in the living room, their expressions dark and resolute. Blake stood up as soon as he saw me. "Sit down, Olivia. We need to talk," he commanded, a hint of desperation in his voice. "No, we don't," I replied, continuing to pack my things. Harold's voice boomed. "Enough of this nonsense. You're going to sign this." He shoved a document in my face. I glanced at it. It was a legal form transferring all my earnings and assets to Blake. I looked at Harold incredulously. "You've got to be kidding me." "Sign it, Olivia," Martha chimed in. "It's for the good of the family." "Family?" I shot back, fury rising. "You mean the family that's been using me? The family that has lied and cheated and manipulated me?" Blake looked at me, his facade crumbling. "We're struggling, Liv. We need your help," I laughed bitterly. "Your help? Help you and your parents continue to freeload off me while you carry on with your affair?" Blake paled. "That's over, Liv, I swear. Just sign the document and we can move forward." I glared at him, feeling the weight of every betrayal. "Move forward? With you? No chance." With a shaking hand, I reached into my bag and pulled out the damning photos. I threw them across the table, watching as their faces twisted in anger and shock. "What is this?" Martha demanded, picking up a photo of Blake and his mistress. "That, Martha, is evidence," I said coldly. "Evidence that Blake has been lying to me, cheating on me, and now you want me to sign away everything I've worked for?" Harold's face darkened. "You ungrateful," I cut him off. "Enough. I'm leaving, and I'm taking what's mine with me." As I turned to leave, Blake lunged for my arm. "Wait, Liv. Please, let's talk about this." I yanked my arm free. "There's nothing left to talk about." With my bags packed and dignity intact, I stepped out, leaving them behind. The sense of liberation was palpable. I drove to my new apartment, a small but modern place I had rented. It was starkly different from the house I shared with Blake, but it was mine, and that's all that mattered. A few days later, as I was settling in, Mr. Davis called me. "Olivia, there's something you need to hear." "What is it?" I asked, hoping it wasn't more bad news. "It's about Harold. I've dug up some information on his past financial dealings. It's bad, Olivia. Real bad." "Tell me everything," I said, bracing myself. As Mr. Davis outlined Harold's history of fraud and deception, a plan began to take shape in my mind. Blake and his parents had tried to ruin me, but now I had the upper hand. It was time to take things to the next level. Hanging up the phone, I felt a surge of determination. This wasn't just about revenge, it was about justice. And I was ready to fight for it, no matter the cost. Moving into my new apartment was a breath of fresh air. Away from Blake and his toxic family, I finally felt like I could breathe. I poured myself into work, cutting off all financial ties with Blake. Without my support, it wasn't long before the pressure hit him and his parents hard. One morning, I received a frantic call from Blake. "Olivia, can we talk?" I laughed, the irony not lost on me. "What's there to talk about, Blake? We're done." "But the bills, the mortgage, we're drowning here." "Welcome to my world," I replied coldly before hanging up. That same afternoon, I got a call from Mr. Davis. "Olivia, I've found more on Harold. You might want to sit down for this." I leaned back, bracing myself. "Go ahead." Mr. Davis spoke calmly, but with a sense of urgency. "Harold has a history of defrauding others. I've compiled enough evidence that, if made public, could land him in serious trouble." A plan began forming in my mind. "Can you get me everything you have on him?" "Already on it," Mr. Davis assured. "You'll have it by tomorrow." The next day, a thick file arrived at my doorstep. Reading through it, I realized the gravity of Harold's actions. He wasn't just manipulative, he was a criminal. I knew what I had to do next. A week later, I made an anonymous call to a local journalist. "I have a tip on a significant financial crime," I started, my voice steady. "I have all the evidence you need." "What's the story?" the journalist asked, her interest piqued. "Harold Andrews, A History of Fraud. I'll send you the documents. You'll see for yourself." Within days, the news broke. Harold's past crimes were plastered all over local media. Blake's phone calls became more frequent, each one more desperate than the last. I ignored them all. Soon enough, I heard through a mutual friend that Blake was demoted at work due to the scandal. The glitzy facade of his life crumbled, leaving him exposed and humiliated. One evening, I received a call from Martha. Her voice was raw with anger and desperation. "How could you do this to us, Olivia?" "Do what?" I asked, feigning innocence. "You know damn well what," she screeched. "Yeah, you've ruined us. Harold's reputation, Blake's job, everything." I savored the moment. "You ruined yourselves by underestimating me and taking advantage of me. This is on you." She hung up, but the victory felt hollow. Facing betrayal from the people you once called family leaves scars. Later that night, Blake showed up unannounced at my apartment. He looked defeated, tired shadows under his eyes. "Liv, please, I'm begging you. Can we just talk?" I let him in, but my guard was up. "What do you want, Blake?" He slumped on the couch, looking around my new place as if seeing the stark difference between this and our old house. "I messed up, Liv. I know that. But can we start over?" I shook my head, almost pitying him. "There's no starting over, Blake. You made your choices. Live with them." "But what about us?" he pleaded. I stood firm, crossing my arms. "There is no us. There never will be again. Goodbye, Blake." Seeing he was getting nowhere, Blake left, head hanging low. The door clicked shut behind him, and with it, I felt the final severance from my past life. The road ahead was mine alone to walk. and I intended to walk it with my head held high. The fallout from the scandal was swift and brutal. Harold's face was plastered across every news outlet, his history of fraud laid bare for everyone to see. Blake's demotion followed soon after. The tech company wanted nothing to do with scandal-tainted employees. The pressure cooker that was Blake's home life finally exploded. I heard through mutual friends that Harold and Martha were tearing into Blake like never before. Their golden son, who was supposed to save them, had instead plunged them into ruin. One day Martha showed up at my door, her eyes blazing with fury. "Do you know what you've done?" she spat. I met her gaze, unflinching. "I did what I had to, Martha. You brought this on yourselves. How dare you?" she screamed, her voice shrill. "We trusted you, and you betrayed us." "Trusted me?" I shot back, incredulous. "You mean used me? Blake's affair, your freeloading, Harold's crimes, trust had nothing to do with it." She took a step closer, her jaw set in anger. "You can't win, Olivia. We'll bounce back." "You don't get it, do you?" I said, shaking my head. "This isn't about winning. This is about getting free of your toxic grip. Go home, Martha. Face the consequences of your actions." She stormed off, but I knew this wasn't the end. Blake tried to win back my sympathy next, showing up at my apartment days later, looking more pathetic than ever. "Olivia, please. I need your help," he said, his voice barely above a whisper. "Why should I help you, Blake?" I asked, genuinely curious. "We're losing everything. The house, the savings. I don't know what to do," he said, tears welling up in his eyes. I leaned back, arms crossed. "What happened to all those high-paying tech jobs, Blake? Where's your girlfriend in all this?" "She left," he confessed, eyes downcast. "Not surprising," I said with a faint smirk. "But that's not my problem anymore. You made your bed, Blake." His face twisted in pain. "How can you be so cold, Liv? We were a family once." "No, Blake, we weren't a family. Families don't lie and cheat and use each other. Now get out. I'm done." He left, shoulders slumped in defeat. The realization that he'd lost everything finally sinking in. Meanwhile, I focused on rebuilding my life. Work was flourishing. Clients appreciated my dedication and creativity. I reinvested my earnings wisely, buying a cozy lakeside house. It was a fresh start, a beautiful escape from my turbulent past. A few weeks later, I received an email from an old friend who'd seen the news. "Heard about what you did. Let's catch up soon," it read. It felt good, reconnecting with people who hadn't been part of the toxic mess my life had become. One day, at a coffee shop where I often went to clear my head, a young woman approached me. "Excuse me, are you Olivia?" she asked nervously. "Yes, I am. How can I help you?" "I'm a graphic design student," she explained, her voice trembling. "I've been following your work. It's really inspiring." "Thank you," I said, smiling warmly. "What's your name?" "Emily," she replied. We chatted for a while, and I could see a spark in her eyes, a passion for design that reminded me of myself years ago. Before she left, I gave her my business card. "Stay in touch, Emily. I'd love to help you find your way in the industry." As I watched her leave, I felt a sense of fulfillment. I had managed to break free from my past and was now in a position to guide others. The journey had been painful, but it led me to a place of strength and clarity. No longer shackled by betrayal, I was free to chart my own course, confident in my self-worth and the lessons learned. Life by the lakeside was peaceful. Every morning I would sit on the porch with my coffee, the serene water reflecting the calm I now felt within. My graphic design business was thriving, and I reinvested my earnings wisely. It was empowering to be financially free and stable. One evening, as I was winding down, my phone rang. It was Emily, the young graphic designer I had met weeks earlier. "Olivia, do you have a moment?" she asked nervously. "Of course, Emily. What's on your mind?" "I got an offer to work with a major design firm, but I'm not sure if I should take it. What if they want to take advantage of me, like your story?" Her concern was genuine, and I understood her fear. "Emily, listen to me. Trust your instincts. If something feels off, it probably is. But also remember, not everyone is out to get you. Keep your eyes open and stay true to your values." "Thanks, Olivia. I just needed to hear that from someone who's been through it." "You've got this, Emily. Keep me posted, okay?" Hanging up, I felt a sense of satisfaction. Helping Emily reminded me of how far I'd come. I had turned my pain into a tool for supporting others. A few days later, while grocery shopping, I ran into an old acquaintance who had known both Blake and me. Sarah looked surprised to see me. Olivia, I heard about everything. How are you holding up? I'm doing well, Sarah. Better than ever, actually. Blake and his parents are in shambles. Their house is being repossessed, and they're facing legal troubles because of Harold. I heard, I said calmly. Poetic justice, I suppose. Poetic indeed, she agreed, giving me a knowing smile. Well, it's good to see you thriving. Olivia, you deserve it. As I left the store, I reflected on Sarah's words. Thriving was exactly what I was doing. Every step away from Blake was a step toward reclaiming my life. One evening, while I was enjoying the sunset by the lake, I received a call from my lawyer. Olivia, everything is finalized. You've successfully severed all financial and legal ties with Blake. Thank you, Linda. That's a huge relief. You're officially free, Olivia. Enjoy it. I intend to, I replied, feeling a weight lift off my shoulders. With that chapter officially closed, I threw myself into my work and hobbies. I started painting again, something I hadn't done in years, finding solace in the colors and brushstrokes. One weekend, a few old friends came over for a small get-together. As we laughed and reminisced, I felt a strong sense of belonging that had been missing for so long. By the end of the night, my closest friend, Jessica, pulled me aside. Olivia, I'm so proud of you. You've come so far. Thanks, Jess. It wasn't easy, but I had to do it for my sanity. You did, and look at you now. You're glowing. Her words meant everything. They validated my journey toward self-worth and healing. As the weeks passed, I continued mentoring Emily, helping her navigate the tricky world of freelance design. Each time we spoke, I saw a more confident, empowered version of her emerge. It was rewarding, knowing I was making a difference. One day, as I sat by the lake, watching the ripples dance across the water, I realized something profound. I had no regrets. Every painful step had led me to this place of peace and purpose. I picked up my sketchbook and began to draw, capturing the beauty of the moment, content with the knowledge that I had built a life worth living. Free from the chains of betrayal and manipulation, I had found my true self, and that was the greatest victory of all.